So here's what happened. Remember that guy Erasmus I was telling you was the first guy to really try and figure out the original words? Well, he, of all the documents he had, he didn't have very many, but of the ones he had, none of them included 1 John 5:7. That verse was missing. In fact, to this day, there isn't really any Greek. In fact, I don't think there is a single Greek manuscript that has that verse in it. In fact, the reason, the only place it existed was in the Latin Vulgate, which the Catholic Church was using at that time. So even though it wasn't in any Greek manuscript, it was very popular because of the Latin Vulgate. Well, when Erasmus came out with his first Greek New Testament, where he tried to figure out the words of the original, he said these words are not original, so he omitted it from his first two editions, from 1516 and 1519. Now, when the Pope found out that Erasmus did not include that verse in there, he challenged Erasmus and he pressured him to include it in there. But Erasmus said he wasn't going to. And in fact, the Pope kept putting pressure on him to do it. This is around the year 1519 that this argument was taking place. Finally, Erasmus gives up and he tells the Pope, if you can bring me one single manuscript, I will sorry, I was double checking my facts here. So he has this argument and he tells the Pope, if you produce one single manuscript with this verse in it, I will include it. Well, that next year, the Pope conveniently found one manuscript, with one Greek manuscript from 1520 that included that verse. And so his next edition in 1522, Erasmus kept his word, and so even though this verse is found in only one manuscript from the 16th century, it found its way into the King James, because the King James used Erasmus, and in fact it was one of the Erasmus New Testament was one of the main sources for their translation. So as you can see, really the story of 1 John 5:7 was that it was a part of the Latin Vulgate, and even though it has almost no Greek attestation, it has very little textual support. The story behind it is kind of a ridiculous one of coercion and pressure, and that's how it made it in there. So be careful what you think of, what judgments you make of these modern translations. They're not liberals trying to destroy the Word of God. Sometimes when you're just aware of what the history is behind these verses, it's just overly powerful.